Welcome. I'm Mark Connor. I'm the Managing Director here at Sapphire. For those of you who don't know who Sapphire are a contractor and accountancy business that support tens of thousands of contractors as well as thousands of recruitment agencies in the UK and internationally. So today we have the pleasure of having Seb in from SafeRec. A few of the things that we'd like to discuss, first and foremost, are the Sapphire and SafeRec partnership, which has been announced recently, as well as the upcoming changes in the temporary labour market, from the umbrella changes to the Employment Rights Bill, and how, as an industry, we can manage supply chain risk and compliance.
Well, thank you for the invitation. Really appreciate it. My name is Seb. I'm the CEO of SafeRec. We are a compliance and technology company, and we launched a certification for umbrella company, where umbrella company can prove that they are compliant operationally on their contract processes policies, but also on taxes.
So it's great to give a bit of background in terms of SafeRec and our partnership, but I suppose we've really noticed a change, certainly over the past couple of years, around how compliance has sort of moved along and shifted. I suppose in your sort of view and what you see in the market, both from an agency point of view and umbrella point of view, how have you seen that evolve and how do you see it evolving in the coming years ahead?
Yeah, I think that the problem for recruitment agency existed with quite some time. The first legislation that brought liability to recruitment agencies really in 2014 with the onshore and the offshore intermediary legislation. Then you had the Criminal Finances Act in 2017, and obviously since the autumn budget last year, now recruitment agency knows they're going to have even more liability in 2026. So there is no doubt that the need for recruitment agency to have due diligence measure in place, and again, making sure that taxes for their worker are paid by umbrella company is becoming more and more of a concern for recruitment agency. Not only recruitment agency, also MSP and end clients. I guess obviously from our perspective at SafeRec, we see it from a compliance organization that work with recruitment agency, and we're not an umbrella company. What is your perspective as an umbrella company? Do you feel that recruitment agency also ask more about compliance and are more concerned about it?
I definitely think, and this is obviously credit to yourself, actually, Seb, I definitely think there's more awareness in the temporary labour market now about, I suppose, first and foremost, what an umbrella company does, what it exists for. And I suppose even though umbrella companies have been around for 25 years, the use of umbrella companies has increased as a result of the I-35 changes in the public sector in 2017 and then the private sector in 2021. One thing that I would say over the past couple of years is, I suppose, and this tarnishes our industry a bit, obviously we do realise there's an element of non-compliance. I do think that overshadows the fact that there are a lot of great companies in our market that do a really good job. They support not only agencies and end clients, but also the contractors themselves. And I think sometimes that's a bit overlooked as an industry. And I think as an industry, we probably don't do enough to support each other about maybe all the great things that we do. I think that has probably filtered through with when you now see stuff around the non-compliant side. I think that does ironically increase the compliance, because what you tend to see is, I suppose, the ugly side of the market and how not to do things. And I think now agencies are sort of seeing compliance as doing it on a proactive basis as opposed to a reactive basis. So filling the questionnaire about to say you're compliant, anyone can do that. And that is something that was commonly used after April 2021. And that just isn't enough. Anyone can tick a box. Anyone can, unfortunately, forge a pay slip. And I think over time, agencies and umbrella companies with education clients, even like end clients and big organisations, are starting to do a more thorough due diligence process. And I think that is ever evolving. And I think hopefully what ends up happening is, obviously we'll speak about the changes in April 2026 and how they may impact compliance. But I suppose there's lots of areas in terms of how compliance can be used as like a drag on value. I would say if you're an agency, a client, actually having really good supply chain management is the opposite. I think it adds a lot of value to your business. Certainly if you're looking for an exit and someone comes and does due diligence on your supply chain, if you say, there's a questionnaire, here's what we do, and then someone delves a little bit deeper, that can actually be a real drag on value in terms of exits and different things. But also, I would say like reputationally, I think a lot now in terms of social media, a lot in terms of like the press, I think doing things properly is going to be ever more important, and I think that's going to be a moving piece over the coming years. And I think, like I said, I think it is becoming ever more important to to look at your supply chain, look at compliance in a different way than maybe we have done previously. And especially now, a lot of people where it might have been a manual task previously and it might have been a lot of administration, a lot of cost, companies like SafeRec have done an amazing job to make that a much more automated thing. And the actual cost of having software in the business, it is a lot less of a cost than if something goes wrong from a compliance perspective.
Absolutely. I think that me, from my perspective, and I remember in my time as sales director in a recruitment agency, I guess that back in 2017, where it's probably like a moment in time where really supply chain started being very concerned about tax compliance in supply chain and understanding what they would need to do to protect their supply chain from non-compliance on the tax element. I guess that what was missing to me at the time was really the ability for me to go and see a client and say, this is how we can be sure 100% that taxes for every single one of your workers are paid to HMRC. And the entire idea behind SafeRec is that it's not only to solve the problem on the recruitment agency side, but it's also to provide a sales advantage to recruitment agencies that embrace that. And they're able to go to see an MSP and they're able to apply to a supply chain or tender for a supply chain and say, this is what we do in terms of umbrella company. We work with umbrella companies that prove to us every single week that all taxes are paid to HMRC. And I believe that when you provide to recruitment agency and to supply chain, not only a way to protect themselves, but also to showcase to their clients that they are compliant, is something that they can use. And this is what we 100% see today. I guess another thing as well that is important to say is, and you mentioned about the reputation of the umbrella company, and you're absolutely right in saying that a minority, which is always the case in any single topic, basically kind of like cast big shadow on the majority that is compliant. And I 100% agree with that. And I think that this is also important, and this is what I say to the umbrella companies that work with us, but also the ones that don't work with us, that this is essential that the umbrella model is promoted into supply chain. And there is so many reasons why, but I'm just going to give you one of them. When you are a recruitment agency and you want a worker to be engaged PAYE, you have different ways to do that. You can be agency PAYE, you can send a deemed payments, there is different way to do it. But the umbrella model is the only way that provide an entire breakdown from the assignment rates. The assignment rate is important because this is what contractor have been negotiated for years. This is their currency. This is their pounds, their British pounds. And umbrella is the only way for them to have a breakdown from the assignment rates down to the net pay and to have everything perfectly transparent in terms of what has been deducted from the amount that they've negotiated. There is no other model for a temporary PE worker that provides this level of transparency. So I 100% concur in the way that, firstly, a minority casts a shadow on the majority, but I think it's important as well as an industry that umbrella company really pitch not only their brand, but the umbrella model, because that's the more transparent one and the one where the worker got the most right as well.
No, absolutely. And I think we go back to compliance. I think what you have tend to see is, I suppose, like different businesses and organisations wear different hats. And I suppose one thing we have seen over the years is that businesses wear either a commercial hat or a compliance hat, and they're probably two separate things. I think as we move forward, I think they're going to be more joined up. And what I tend to think is, over the past 25 years, as supply chains are becoming ever more tighter. And what I mean by that is the fact that probably even 10 years ago, an end client would not be bothered how the contractor through an agency was getting paid. And they wouldn't even know if you asked them whether they were a limited company, CIS, sole trader, pay as you earn through the agency, through an umbrella company. They wouldn't know, and quite frankly, they probably wouldn't care. Where I think now, it's a much better business to be in. And clients now are starting to be aware of that, and it's absolutely right that it should be. Just even from like a human level, I do think when we talk about non-compliance and compliance, obviously there is a lot of people who say our tax rates are too high in the UK and different things, and I think absolutely I sort of concur with that. And to get political, and everyone would like to see the tax lower than it is and tax rates come down. This is a big gap in the market. We're talking potentially billions of pounds. Government think that is in the non-compliant sector of the umbrella market. And one thing I would say is it's probably not just linked to the umbrella market. I think there are people that are outside of not just the umbrella sector that understand how to maybe promote these schemes and different things. And I think the government stepping in, maybe with some legislation to hopefully help, certainly what supply chain should do. Certainly there is going to be like an increased liability. But I think overall, one thing I would say is commercial teams and compliance teams being more joined up and supply chains being tighter will only be a good thing for the temporary labour market moving forward.
Absolutely.
So, Seb, April 2026 is something we speak about a lot in our day-to-day lives. I know in our sector it's heavily spoke about. We've been to various roundtables together with various industry leaders. I met government met HMRC. I suppose for those that don't know, because it is something that is heavily involved in our world, what is happening in April 2026 and what do you envisage will happen to the temporary labour market as a result?
Well, I think that what's important is maybe to understand the journey of what led to April 2026 and obviously discuss about what has been announced. And it's probably a question as well, an answer to the question, what's changed over the past 3-4 years? And really, when you look at what HMRC has done, I know that umbrella company has been complaining for quite some time that the government or HMRC were doing nothing about the industry. But in 2021, they released a call for evidence. In 2023, they released a consultation on how to regulate the umbrella companies in a nutshell. And from this consultation, they suggested 3 options. Option 1, mandating due diligence. Option 2, debt transfer. And option 3, make the recruitment agency the employer for tax purposes. So that was the consultation. I think that the end of it was August 2023. And in April 2024, the government decided to go with option 1, mandating due diligence. And in a turn of events, in autumn 2024, the government decided we're not going to go with option 1, we are going to go with option 3. And they released, let's say, an unclear policy paper that left a lot of recruitment agency and umbrella company in the doubt, simply because the consequences of making the recruitment agency the employer for tax purposes will have destructive effects on some recruitment agency in some supply chain that need umbrella companies, and obviously on umbrella company because potentially they would have to need to change their business model. Now, there are a lot of people with part of it, but there is the REC, APSCO, there is so many organizations that spoke to the governments, and we believe that there is a shift in terms of how they think and what they are going to implement. So the next step really is July 2025, when they are going to release the draft legislation. And that is going to be followed by a non-formal consultation with key stakeholders about what's going to be announced at the autumn budget. What we believe is going to happen, and that is a trajectory that HMRC took since 2014, is really to put more liability on the recruitment agency. And again, onshore, offshore intermediary legislation, tax liability, Criminal Finances Act, penalties on recruitment agencies that don't have reasonable processes in place to prevent the facilitation of tax evasion. And now you've got 2026, and potentially could be a liability for the recruitment agency, where HMRC will be able to get the money directly to the recruitment agency, the umbrella company, or both. So what we envision in July of what's going to be released is HMRC giving themselves full power to basically go and get back the taxes that have not been paid. And the translation of that means that if you are a recruitment agency, it's not about getting compliance pack emailed to you with contract in it and certificate of incorporation. That is far from being enough, because you can forge a contract, you can forge a certificate of incorporation, a VAT receipt, you can forge pretty much everything. What the recruitment agency will need to have is a certainty at 100% that the workers they have through an umbrella company got their taxes paid to HMRC. And this is exactly the value proposition that we bring with our certification for umbrella company, where we edit all payslip, We cross-reference with RTI sent to HMRC to make sure the right amount of tax has been disclosed to HMRC. And we check every single month the HMRC tax account of the umbrella company to make sure that the right number of tax have been disclosed and is being paid to HMRC. And then we send an audit report to the recruitment agency. So I feel like we're in good position with our certification and the umbrella company like Sapphire that have our certification in a way that the value proposition that this umbrella company bring to recruitment agency is already a solution to the worst case scenario to what potentially can happen in July, announced in July in a draft legislation, then in October, and obviously live in April 2026. Obviously, we have an idea of what the draft legislation is going to look like, but it would be good to understand from your point of view, speaking to recruitment agency, what the feedback that you get. Do you feel that recruitment agency are worried about it? Do you successfully reassure them? What is your experience as an umbrella company speaking to agencies?
I think it's quite difficult. I think there's obviously so much going on in the world of recruitment and the temporary labour market at the minute. From an economy point of view, I suppose recruitment agencies maybe over the past couple of years have felt a little bit of a pinch in terms of volume, and sometimes what ends up happening is that is almost got to be the forefront of a business and driving that forward. So would I say recruitment agencies are absolutely all over this? I would probably say no, and that's not because they're not interested, it's just because there's so many things that go on in their world. And I suppose it's probably our market's job to educate people. It is a big change. And I think obviously something that we speak to clients quite often about and how we can protect them. And I think as a market, I think one thing I have been really pleased about is the market sort of coming together and saying, what can we do to protect recruitment agencies? Because ultimately, not only recruitment agencies, the whole supply chain. And I think over the last couple of years, that's become pretty apparent in terms of how you do that. And I always look at, I suppose, if I owned a recruitment agency, what would I do? What would I do from a supply chain management point of view and work backwards from there? And I suppose that's how we come on to what we're looking to do and what we should do to prepare as you're an agency. I think first and foremost, number one, have a really good relationship with providers, understand what they do, understand the processes day in, day out, what they do, but also understand how they're going to protect you. What are they going to do in the next 12 months to ultimately make you sleep better at night? And that's not to be, I suppose, too controversial, but that is the last thing I suppose any business owner wants to knock on the door from HMRC unexpectedly and say, do you know there's a massive risk on your balance sheet here? So I suppose as an agency, number one, understand who you're working with, understand what they do, and understand how they're going to protect you. What do they do now? What are they maybe going to do differently? And ultimately, how they're going to adapt when April 2026 comes around. That's ultimately, from the Sapphire point of view, we've looked at that, and that's what we're putting steps now in place, and we're speaking to a lot of agencies about how we can help. But I suppose the good thing as well, and this isn't just about Sapphire, it's about the umbrella market as a whole, there are other providers in our market that are also doing the same, and I suppose singing from the same hymn sheet. And as a compliant member of the temporary labour market, I hate using that word, but I think as a business that does things properly, and there's lots of other businesses that does things properly, we want to make sure that that side is promoted and that agencies are really comfortable with that side of the market, and the fact that they can sleep better at night knowing that everyone that they deal with is doing things properly, and ultimately, from an agency's point of view, they can concentrate on things that are going to increase the value of their business by going out and winning more clients. And if we can take the other side of things away and the pain away from a supply chain management point of view, that's what we're looking to do and have looked to do previously. But I suppose now there is more liability on the way, what we're going to continue to push over the next 12 months and beyond. The other thing I would add in terms of what agencies may look to do in future is, I suppose at this moment in time, agencies really aren't bothered to a certain extent about the financial element from an umbrella perspective, where if there is maybe a liability that's shifted up the supply chain, one thing agencies probably will have more of a focus on is actually what does that umbrella company look like in terms of from a financial point of view. If there is any liabilities arising, which hopefully there wouldn't be, then is that umbrella company able to pay any liabilities? And I suppose that is one thing where there might be a shift, and recruitment agencies may start to monitor umbrella companies' financial situation, because ultimately, if there's a liability that's shifted maybe down up the supply chain from an umbrella perspective, you're going to want to make sure that maybe the umbrella company is financially sound and they're not just going to close the door the day after any liabilities happen.
I guess obviously we talked to 2026 and and what's going to happen on tax and liability for recruitment agency. But the other big elephant in the room is obviously the employment right bill. What's the feedback that you have from recruitment agency, which I'm sure that this is a topic that you have with them, the impact they're going to have, and effectively how potentially umbrella company could solve the problem for them or reduce the new liabilities that they're going to get.
Yeah, I suppose, like any legislation, I think what the industry is probably crying out for is quite a lot of clarity around how this is going to work in practice, because I think we've heard a lot of noise about it first and foremost. I suppose from an agency's point of view and an umbrella company's point of view, first and foremost, if we're starting an umbrella company, if we are defined, which it look as a sector which is looking like it will, and where we brought into sort of the employment rights bill and how we're defined, that will increase the liability to umbrellas. So we will have a bigger exposure and we will have more, I suppose, stricter rights in terms of what we have to do as a provider on us first and foremost. Now, as a business, that is our bread and butter. We do this day in, day out. Now, obviously, that may change in terms of some new things we have to abide by, which is fine. But this is our bread and butter. This is what we do day in, day out. So we are getting up to these changes and what they may look like. I suppose from a recruitment agency's point of view, we are seeing a lot of agencies probably speaking to us about how we can help them, how we can mitigate their risk, because some agencies over the past few years and many will offer either a pay-as-you-earn solution on their own payroll, or maybe giving the candidate the choice from an umbrella perspective. And typically, I would say agencies and some agencies might not really bothered which route the contractors go down. I'm not saying that will change, and I think agencies will still give contractors the option. One thing we are seeing is probably more agencies who are looking at how they can outsource that. And I don't want to say that because they don't know how to run their own payroll, for example. I'm more meaning it because that's not what they do day in, day out. They're a recruitment agency's job, and what it does is to go and place workers into clients. And I suppose what comes after that isn't what they do day in, day out. I think what our agencies are looking at is how can we get more expertise from that side of things. Now, there's obviously a few options how they can do that. They can bring that in-house, and they can bring more expertise in-house. And what the employment rights bill will do is it will bring more liabilities in-house. It'll put a risk on your balance sheet that you might not have had previously, or an increased risk that you've not had. So I think people are using and looking at where the expertise, and they may be looking at the expertise in our market. This is what we do day in, day out. This is our bread and butter. And they are speaking to us about how we can support that, whether that means more contractors are employed through umbrella companies. Who knows? But I do think there is going to see a shift in terms of the way agencies look at the employment rights bill, and maybe the relationship they have with their contractors may change. And that is, from our point of view, that's good news, because we can help agencies support them and also contractors with our expertise that we already have. So the employment rights bill, how it will impact agencies, I think it's going to definitely be more risk. There's going to be more red tape. I think them things we know for certain, and I think it will be an increased cost to agencies to have that in-house. And this isn't a sell to say put them all to umbrellas, but that is probably a fact. And I think what you may see as a result of that is the use of more expertise and the use of sticking to, I suppose, your bread and butter, in terms of as an agency, they may have less people in their own pay-as-you-earn. That may increase the numbers to umbrellas. So whilst it is in the minute, I do think there's obviously big changes happening as of next year. So one thing we do know in terms of the employment rights bill is that umbrella companies are going to be defined in that bill, which is going to increase the liabilities to umbrella companies. I think that's sometimes what's forgotten. It's not that we're a silver bullet to that legislation, but absolutely not. I would say, however, that dealing with temporary contractors, employment is something we have a lot of expertise in. It's something we do day in, day out. So from like an economies of scale point of view, we look after tens of thousands of contractors, we look after thousands of recruitment agencies. We do have a lot of expertise already internally, which I think will have to increase. Like when new legislation comes in, there'll be new things we have to learn as a business. We will do that because it's what we do day in, day out. I suppose from an agency's point of view, and when we're having a lot of conversations, this is a hot topic for recruitment agencies. They are worried about this. And like when anything changes, I suppose there is a lot of things that people may do differently. One of the things we are seeing, and people are having a lot more conversation, is this is going to increase the burden on recruitment agencies, absolutely. From first and foremost, cost point of view, they may have to bring extra expertise in internally themselves. They are prone to changes like anything. They are prone to people leaving, X, Y, Z. But one thing we are having a lot of conversation about is how we can support recruitment agencies in an even greater way than what we do now. And agencies are thinking of how they can use our expertise. Now, that may lead to more contractors being engaged by umbrella companies. It may be us providing support to agencies to help them through those changes. But I would say it is going to increase the risk. And ultimately, agencies have risk at the minute, but that risk is going to ever increase as a result of these employment rights bill changes on your balance sheet. You look at people exiting, and I would say, what would I do? Going back to what would I do if I was an agency? This is such a big change. I've engaged people, our experts, and like I said before, as a sector, we do have a lot of expertise in this, and we are seeing a lot of clients now come to us and looking at how we can support them through these changes.
I think that I totally agree with that, and one of the main things that I hear sometimes, especially for some contractor we speak with, is that they quite sometimes don't understand why recruitment agencies don't run their own payroll. And there is really two important facts that are important to understand. The first is start from the receipts. Over 70% of recruitment agencies are macro organizations, meaning that they have less than 10 employees. And the other thing is to appreciate the complexity of running payroll at scale. It's not something simple. You need to have software, you need to have expertise, and expertise means employees that you need to manage. And now you have the employment right bills that's going to make the entire POE process for a recruitment agency even more expensive. And overall, I do believe that in the future, we are going to see recruitment agency looking at their payroll function if they have it, and just think, well, it doesn't worth it. We're just going to outsource it. And there is an argument to say that in 2025, and when we look at where the world is going and where organizations are going, that really the future of organization is outsource their support function. And payroll and employment is a support function for a recruitment agency. And I really do believe that the future of umbrella company and other provider and intermediaries are just going to have a lot of importance in the future because of that. Because I know that there is a lot of recruitment agencies that are looking at running payrolls themselves and make the decision that is too expensive for them.
Yeah, and I think that's a really valid point just in terms of outsourcing. In general, businesses are looking at anyway, and I think the upcoming changes to the employment rights bill will further increase businesses looking to outsource because, like you said, businesses are more looking at what their niche is and what they do very well. And a lot of agencies do many things very well, but I suppose what an agency exists for, like we came back to earlier, is placing candidates either permanently on a temporary basis, and everything else that goes with that. A lot more agents are looking at actually, do we need that support internally? Do we need that function internally? And actually, wider than that, not just from a cost point of view, can we outsource it where there's actually more expertise? And I think as an industry at Sapphire, we have a lot of expertise around payroll, employment, the different types of legislation that have already happened previously, and we're working very hard to make sure that we have as much expertise from an employment rights bill, and where agencies, we're having a lot of agencies that are speaking to us, we can support them with that in the coming months and years ahead. I suppose the other side that we are seeing is where agencies maybe have had a lot of pay-as-you-earn workers in the past and haven't necessarily all used pay-as-you-earn on the umbrella. One of the things we are seeing is a lot more inquiries about our PEO offering. So it is very, very similar in terms of the umbrella, it has all the same benefits, but where maybe the agency want a different sort of relationship with the umbrella provider, maybe the umbrella provider has a different relationship with the contractor. Ultimately, it nets the same result, but I suppose to agencies where they've offered pay-as-you-earn previously, it's probably a path of least change in terms of how they engage contractors, how they speak about rates of pay. And that is something that a lot of agencies are coming and speaking to us about, saying we want the rate of pay to be a pay-as-you-earn rate as opposed to a gross rate, which the contractor sees. But we don't want to be their employer anymore because of all the risks that may come with that, which is perfectly fine from our point of view. We can obviously operate at that level. And from agencies, they are looking at actually if that may be a different way to go or another way as opposed to just pay-as-you-earn and straight umbrella. And even though the PEO does a lot around that have the same functions and ultimately has the same benefits to the supply chain, it is probably a closer version of agency pay-as-you-earn than the umbrella. So that is one thing we are having a lot of inquiries about and something that we're speaking to agencies about because it might be a path of least change. We spoke previously about what can agencies do potentially about the upcoming changes in April 2026. I suppose from your point of view, what can umbrella companies do and I suppose how does SafeRec now fit in with what umbrella companies can provide to the supply chain?
Sure. I think that there is something that is, from my point of view, important to understand, which is in every single organization, probably around the world, what an organization wants to do is solve their client's problem. And in 2020, 2021, 2022, up to 2026, with this new legislation, the umbrella's clients, the recruitment agency, their problem is a tax liability and more liabilities that is going to be more and more. And the liability is nearly exclusively a tax liability. It's pretty much nothing else other than a tax liability. So I think that is important from a recruitment agency to understand what proof do you get that taxes are accurately calculated, disclosed to HMRC, and paid to HMRC. And I think that from an umbrella point of view is how do I prove that to my clients? And I think that the recruitment agencies that have this point of view and the umbrella companies that have this point of view, they just have a very bright future in front of them. Now, what do we do as SafeRec to solve that? What do we do? What is the value proposition that we bring to achieve that? Well, what we've done as SafeRec, and again, that really comes from my background in recruitment, is that in the past, I felt that everything that existed to review umbrella company was reviewing umbrella company for umbrella company. What we do as SafeRec is auditing umbrella company for recruitment agencies and supply chain. And the way that we do that is really to have an entire system that firstly include not getting the information from the umbrella company. And this is for that we have integration with every single payroll software that provide umbrella pay, or at least 95% of them. And when an umbrella company wants to be certified by us, we get the payslip and CIS statements because we audit everything where the umbrella company is responsible to remit tax to HMRC. So we received in real time all payslip and all CIS statements sent to the worker and all RTI sent to HMRC. At the end of each month, we meet with each SafeRec certified umbrella company and we log with them under the HMRC tax account where we can see how much tax have been disclosed to HMRC and if it's been paid. Then we reconcile all this information and we send to every single recruitment agency the umbrella company work with audit reports that shows that all taxes have been accurately calculated on payslip, disclosed to HMRC via RTIs that we received, and paid on the HMRC tax account, meaning zero tax liability to the agency, to their worker, to their client, or their client's clients. And that is really only one part of what we do. The other, I would say, 40-50% of it is, and you know that, the umbrella company is going to go through a thorough review of all contract processes policies by a law firm called WTT Legal. And WTT Legal, when they review the umbrella companies, they issue a due diligence report that is available at no cost for any organization that work with a SafeRec certified umbrella company like Sapphire on safrec.co.uk. So what we've done, and to answer this problem about I'm an agency, I want to make sure that my umbrella company is compliant, and I'm an umbrella company, I want to prove to my agency that everything is compliant, is really creating a bridge in the middle where we are totally independent and we review operationally in terms of compliance what the umbrella company is doing via a review of a law firm, and we check in real time that all taxes are accurately calculated, disclosed to HMRC and paid to HMRC. And we provide proof to recruitment agency and supply chain. And I do believe that the goal for us is not to expose, is to create a safe haven where umbrella companies that want to be part of this ecosystem, they can come in, and recruitment agency that want to have security and leverage when they exit their business and they are ready to get the biggest payday of their life. Well, they also have an ecosystem that protects them and protects the value of their business.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And going back to the point around compliance and commercial elements of businesses, I suppose I would say, and this is the evolution of sort of technology and different things, the industry has sort of been crying out for this for a number of years, because if I put my hat on as a recruitment agency, it's very costly compliance, or has been previously, in terms of to audit pay slips, and you might have a couple of people that ring all the umbrella providers, check them, check maybe RTIs, what's going on. I suppose this is a really efficient way of an agency protecting themselves from a compliance perspective, because it does exactly what you'd want. And I suppose even forgetting legislation around April 2026, we're just going to highlight this further. This is, I believe, something that the industry has been crying out for, and something that definitely does protect supply chains in a different way. And I suppose real-time auditing probably is the future of not only this industry, I do think of a lot of industries, and I think that's obviously a testament to yourself, because I think it's going to provide massive value to the whole temporary labor market.
I guess the question that I have in mind is, like, on your side, from a Sapphire point of view, what trigger the, okay, now that's time to become SafeRec certified? What was the trigger, and what happened from your point of view?
Yeah, I think from your point of view, it's probably a pretty long business development battle to try and get us on board. And you did an amazing job in terms of not persuading us, but also showing us the benefits of how it can protect agencies. I suppose why it was the right time. Listen, in hindsight, should we have got it earlier? Is now the right time? Who sort of knows that? But I think why it was the right time is we definitely are seeing a bigger focus from agencies in terms of compliance. And going back to the point when, I suppose, certainly looking around April 2026, and what would I want if I was an agency? And I know I've touched on this a lot, so at the risk of repeating myself, I would want something that, number one, if the use of umbrella companies is going to increase on the compliance side, and if it is, I want something that tells me without any uncertainty what is being deducted and what is being paid over. And I don't think real-time auditing is the future of that. I don't think someone's checking pay slips, ringing up the umbrella company, asking them to provide sort of the dashboard for HMRC. I think them days are gone. And I think also, not only them days are gone because it's people can manipulate the data, I think them days are gone because it's so costly. It's so costly for a manual process for that to happen. I think why we thought it was the right time is it's a brilliant tool, first and foremost. So congratulations. I think you've done an amazing job, as I've said previously. But we really do see the value this is going to bring, not to our business, just I suppose to the supply chain in general, because it gives people reassurance. Actually, it's a really efficient process, and you do not have to worry about it. And look, there's lots of other things that we do at Sapphire. We've got various other trade bodies and different things, but I suppose from a real-time auditing point of view, and when we do look at liabilities in the future, it gives agencies, clients peace of mind that actually what we do ticks a box and they don't have to get involved at all. I think that is the beauty of SafeRec. The agency doesn't have to get involved with anything. And I suppose one thing that maybe we do overlook is, even for the contractor as well, the contractor, sometimes it's not, when we talk about expertise, we look after contractors across various sectors. Payroll, understanding pay slip is not their expertise. And I suppose what SafeRec also does really well is it gives the contractors peace of mind that actually I'm not going to go and get a tax bill from HMRC, because sometimes there has been probably a bit of naivety around the temporary market that maybe when you get in touch with an umbrella provider, and rightfully it should be like this, that everything's going to be done properly. And unfortunately, some contractors have not had that, and they've got unexpected tax bills. So from a contractor's point of view, them getting a pay slip, them getting a third party to verify that everything's been deducted and everything's been paid over is also something that was really appealing to us. I suppose going back to the other point around commercial and compliance, I suppose you've obviously done a great job, because one thing we have seen, and one thing that was probably leading us more to take the leap of faith to obviously provide SafeRec to all our clients and contractors, is the fact agencies are now sort of speaking about that as well. I suppose your brand took a while to probably get out there from an umbrella perspective, but even more so from an agency's perspective, because it's something that's new. But one thing we are seeing is more agencies are speaking to us about it. I think when we started to hear that was the right time, and we thought, you know what, we want to get ahead of the curve. And actually, it's an absolutely fantastic product for the market and provides a great solution. But also from a commercial point of view now, we don't want to miss out on opportunities where agencies are dictating they want real-time auditing, because they are taking compliance, I wouldn't say more seriously, but moving in a different direction where it's become more efficient, and they are looking at using real-time auditing as a non-negotiable for their providers that they deal with. I suppose it's simple. Umbrella companies and agencies need better tools to provide compliance, so it was a no-brainer for us.
It's always good as well from our side to see like an organization like Sapphire and taking this leap of faith. I always remember when we started SafeRec with my business partner 5 years ago, and we really started with just like 2 computers and 1 phone. We started calling recruitment agency, and people were probably wondering who is this Frenchman that's calling about auditing payslip and checking RTI. And it really didn't make quite a lot of sense at the time. And saying that we have small organization, medium organization, large organization, and reputable organization like Sapphire that really part of SafeRec now is really amazing for us to see the growth and the traction that we have, and the feelings that we provide a real value proposition that is endorsed, as you just said, by recruitment agency, but also by umbrella companies that have been in this space for several years.
I suppose with everything that's coming up with the different legislation changes, I know you've done a lot in the last 5 years already. What's next for SafeRec, and how will it support agencies and umbrella companies moving forward?
Well, I think that there is different things that we have on the pipeline. I think that what is obvious, and we've been working for quite some time about it, is to have some type of insurance product for recruitment agencies that they can subscribe to when they use a SafeRec certified umbrella company. It's not easy task, so we hope it's going to be like early next year, pretty close to April 2026, that we have some things that come up. And that is one element. And the second element is provide more visibility to supply chain. Because as we discussed today, the need is not only for recruitment agency, it's also for MSP, and it's also for end clients. So we're already running a trial with 4 big MSP at the moment, where they can actually have visibility on the umbrella companies that are being used by the different recruitment agencies that they have in their PSL. So I think that the future of that is just like pushing forward, keep innovating in this space, and keep solving the problems that are just not solved today. And when you're an end client and when you're an MSP, you want to work with recruitment agencies that have their umbrella company in place. One of the last things is just like you can see that recently there is like 500 organizations that have been named and shamed by HMRC for paying worker under the national minimum wage. And that shows that end client will have to care more about how their workers are engaged directly by them, but also in their temporary supply chain. And I genuinely believe that for them to have a tool that provide them this visibility through recruitment agency and umbrella company, and having the insurance that taxes are being paid and above the national minimum wage, is something that is going to be an absolute must-have within the next 12 to 24 months.
No, I completely agree. Obviously, we're big advocates. Hence why we're now certified. And I agree with exactly what you're saying, with the fact that compliance, if it's done properly, is a massive value add to your business from many different aspects. And while I suppose commercially, there's always like commercial and compliance teams at cost, like we said previously, if they work together, it can massively add value to everyone in the supply chain, not from a client point of view, agency, MSP, even from an umbrella company perspective. It can add massive value to your own business in the fact that actually someone's auditing you every single week, every single pay slip, in terms of saying what you're doing is correct. And that is a massive advantage to the whole supply chain, something that I think will drive the industry forward in terms of becoming a far better industry. And hopefully it will lead to the businesses that want to do things properly thriving, as opposed to at the minute where there can be some frustrations where we sometimes get a call from a contractor or unfortunately and saying, can you give us 80% take home pay? And hopefully in the years to come, that isn't the case. Every umbrella company that is certified and made with a trade body, and those companies come to the fore, really, I would say that hopefully it's just like any business, it should be on service, price, and what you can offer back to the contractors in terms of how you succeed as a business, not whether you can give the contractors more money. And that is something that is my wish for the market, and I suppose it is clearly your wish as well. But what I'd echo is it's not just about Sapphire and SafeRec. I suppose there's plenty of other companies in the whole supply chain that echo the same thing. And I suppose over the next coming years, them companies to thrive would be something that would be a great outcome for us all.
Absolutely. I think that this is one of the things that is probably the next step as well is really that the industry, the umbrella industry, also suppliers to this industry like us, really are in a situation where we can really change the narrative around the umbrella company. So to give an example, recently we launched a big survey on 10,000 of workers, and 3,500 workers replied to this survey. And what we get out of it is, well, over 65% of them are satisfied with their umbrella company. Over 50% of them use the tools that their umbrella company is providing. And I think that is really important as an industry to kind of like change the narrative, because there is obviously contractors that are frustrated because they are their limited company and now they need to work through an umbrella company. And what they don't like is not the umbrella company, it's the fact that they need to pay more taxes. And everyone can perfectly understand that. But the majority of workers are happy with umbrella companies. They are happy to be employed in a temporary position and to have an organization, compliant organization that gives them payslip, gives them employment rights, and everything that goes through an umbrella company with the tax, the perks, etc., etc. So I think over the next 12 to 24 months, I think it's important as well that the industry as a whole just pitch themselves to the recruitment industry and is being proud of what they are doing, and that we stop seeing umbrella companies through the spectrum of non-compliance, but we start looking at umbrella companies through the spectrum of being the most transparent models that break down from assignment rate to net pay, that is being seeing the umbrella industry as providing tools to workers, providing employment right to workers, etc., etc. So I think that's going to be a challenge over the next 12 to 24 months as well, in terms of how we can, as an industry, and how we can help as SafeRec changing this narrative around umbrella companies.
No, like I said, I think it's been something that I definitely have seen, and it's something that as an industry, I believe with like changes next April, I would say as an industry, this is the closest I've seen it in terms of people working together. And that doesn't mean people sharing like the USPs and that. So I mean, it's actually people being actually proud of what we do and saying we do support the industry as a whole in a big way. And I suppose people working together to try and come up with the best solutions for our clients collectively as to how we can support them in the coming years ahead. And that's something that hopefully will continue, because that will further increase the standards to what we provide to clients, agencies and clients, but also to contractors themselves. So hopefully in years to come, that 65% is 80, 90, 100%. That'll be our wish. So thank you. Finally, I suppose just want to say thanks for coming in today. It's great to get your insight in terms of the market and how we can do things differently. But I suppose another thank you, not so much for Sapphire, but on behalf of the whole temporary market, what an amazing job you've done in terms of to change the narrative to help us in general and become more efficient, and I suppose lead the way from a compliance perspective that things can be done properly, and it's definitely an increase in value and not a drop in value. So
thank you so much for the invitation and for the kind words. I really appreciate it, and because of our journey, it means a lot. So thank you very much.